Yeah. Please fill me with the Ruach HaKodesh, that I may speak your written words with boldness to those who listen. I ask all these things in Yeshua HaMashiach's name. Amen. We'll start with the Shema, listen and obey. Children of Yah, pay careful attention and respond. Yahweh is our power and authority. Yahweh works in unity with himself. And you shall act upon your love to Yahweh with your power and authority, with your thoughts and mind, with your entire body, and with all the muchness that you have. Genesis 16 through 20. Now Sarai, Abram's wife, had not borne him a child, but she had an Egyptian slave girl named Hagar. So Sarai said to Abram, "Hear now, Yahweh has kept me from having children. So go in and sleep with my slave girl. Maybe I'll be able to have children through her." Abram listened to what Sarai said. It was after Abram had lived 10 years in the land of Canaan that Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar, the Egyptian, her slave girl, and gave her to Abram, her husband, to be his wife. Abram had sexual relations with Hagar, and she conceived. But when she became aware that she was pregnant, she looked on her mistress with contempt. Sarai said to Abram, "This outrage being done to me is your fault. True, I gave my slave girl to you to sleep with, but when she saw that she was pregnant, she began holding me in contempt. May Yahweh decide who is right, I or you." However, Abram answered Sarai, "Look, she's your slave girl. Deal with her as you think fit." Then Sarai treated her so harshly that she ran away from her. The angel of Yahweh found her by a spring in the desert, the spring on the road to Shur, and said, "Hagar, Sarai's slave girl, where have you come from, and where are you going?" She answered, "I'm running away from my mistress, Sarai." The angel of Yahweh said to her, "Go back to your mistress and submit to her authority." The angel of Yahweh said to her, "I will greatly increase your descendants. There will be so many that will be impossible to count them." The angel of Yahweh said to her, "Look, you are pregnant, and you will give birth to a son. You are to call him Yishmael, Ishmael. God pays attention, because Yahweh has paid attention to your misery. He will be a wild donkey of a man, with his hand against everyone and everyone's hand against him, living his life at odds with all his kinsmen." So she named Yahweh, who had spoken with her, El Royah, God of seeing, because she said, Have I really seen the one who sees me and stayed alive?" This is why the well has been called Ber Lecho Roa, well of the one who lives and sees. It lies between Kadesh and Bered. Hagar bore Abram's son, and Abram called the son Hagar who bore Yishmael. Abram was 86 years old when Hagar was born Yishmael to Abraham. When Abram was 99 years old, Yahweh appeared to Abram and said to him, "I am El Shaddai, God Almighty. Walk in my presence and be pure-hearted. I will make my covenant between me and you, and I will increase your numbers greatly." Abram fell on his face, and God continued speaking with him. "As for me, this is my covenant with you. You will be the father of many nations. Your name will no longer be Abram, exalted father, but your name will be Abraham, father of many. Because I have made you father of many nations, I will cause you to be very fruitful. I will make nations of you, kings will descend from you. I am establishing my covenant between me and you, along with your descendants after you, generation after generation, and as an everlasting covenant, to be God for you and for your descendants after you. I will give you and your descendants after you the land in which you are now foreigners, all the land of Canaan, as a permanent possession, and I will be their God. God said to Abraham, "As for you, you are to keep my covenant, you and your descendants after you, generation after generation. Here is my covenant, which you are to keep between me and you, along with your descendants after you. Every male among you is to be circumcised. You are to be circumcised in the flesh of your foreskin. This will be a sign of the covenant between me and you. Generation after generation, every male among you who is 8 days old is to be circumcised, including slaves born within your household, and those bought by a foreigner, not descended from you. The slave born in your house and the person bought with your money must be circumcised. Thus my covenant will be with your flesh as an everlasting covenant. Any uncircumcised male who will not let himself be circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, that person will be cut off from his people, because he has broken my covenant." God said to Abraham, "As for Sarai, your wife, you are not to call her Sarai, mockery. Her name is to be called Sarah, princess. I will bless her. Moreover, I will give you a son by her. Truly, I will bless her. She will be a mother of nations. Kings of peoples will come after her." At this, Abraham fell on his face and laughed. He thought to himself, "Will a child be born to a man 100 years old? Will Sarah give birth at 90? Abraham said to God, "If only Ishmael could live in your presence." God answered, "No, but Sarah, your wife, will bear you a son, and you are to call him Yitzhak, laughter. I will establish my covenant with him as an everlasting covenant for your descendants after him. But as for Ishmael, I have heard you. I have blessed him. I will make him fruitful and give him many descendants. He will father 12 princes, and I will make him a great nation. But I will establish my covenant with Yitzhak, whom Sarah will bear to you at this time next year." With that, God finished speaking with Abraham and went up from him. Abraham took Ishmael his son, all the slaves born in his house, and all who had been bought with his money, every male among the people in Abraham's household, and circumcised the flesh of their foreskin that very day, just as God had said to him. Abraham was 99 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of the foreskin, and Ishmael his son was 13 years old when he became circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. Abraham and Ishmael his son were circumcised on the same day. And all the men in his household, both slaves born in his house and those bought with money from a foreigner, were circumcised with him. Yahweh appeared to Abraham by the oaks of Mamre, as he sat at the entrance of the tent during the heat of the day. He raised his eyes and looked, and there in front of him stood 3 men. On seeing them, he ran from the tent door to meet them, prostrated himself on the ground, and said, "My Lord, if I have found favor in your sight, please don't leave your servant. Please let me send for some water so that you can wash your feet, then rest under the tree. I will bring a piece of bread. Now that you have come to your servant, refresh yourselves before going on." "Very well," they replied. "Do what you have said." Abraham hurried into the tent to Sarah and said, "Quickly, 3 measures of the best flour. Knead it and make cakes." Abraham ran to the herd, took a good tender calf, and gave it to the servant, who hurried to prepare it. Then he took curds, milk, and a calf which he had prepared, and set it before the men. He stood by them under the tree as they ate. Then he said to them, "Where is Sarah your wife?" Then they said to him, "Where is Sarah your wife?" He said, "There, in the tent." He said, "I will certainly return to you around this time next year, and Sarah your wife will have a son." Sarah heard him from the entrance of the tent behind him. Abraham and Sarah were old, advanced in years. Sarah was past the age of childbearing. So Sarah laughed to herself, thinking, "I am old, and so is my Lord. Am I to have pleasure again?" Yahweh said to Abraham, "Why did Sarah laugh and ask, Am I really going to bear a child when I am so old? Is anything too hard for Yahweh? At this time set for it, at this season next year, I will return to you and Sarah will have a son. Sarah denied it, saying, I didn't laugh, because she was afraid. He said, Not so. You did laugh. The men set out from there and looked over toward Sodom, and Abraham went with them to see them on their way. Yahweh said, Should I hide from Abraham what I'm about to do? Inasmuch as Abraham is sure to become great and a strong nation, and all the nations of the earth will be blessed by him. For I have made myself known to him, so that he will give orders to his children and to his household after him to keep the way of Yahweh and to do what is right and just, so that Yahweh may bring about for Abraham what he has promised him. Yahweh said, The outcry of Sodom and Gomorrah is so great and their sin so serious that I will now go down and see whether their deeds warrant the outcry that has reached me. If not, I will know. The men turned away from there and went toward Sodom. Then Abraham remained standing before Yahweh. Abraham approached him and said, Will you actually sweep away the righteous with the wicked? Maybe there were 50 righteous people in the city. Will you actually sweep the place away and not forgive it for the sake of 50 righteous who are there? Far be it from you to do such a thing, to kill the righteous along with the wicked, so that the righteous and the wicked are treated alike. Far be it from you. Shouldn't the judge of all the earth do what is just? Yahweh said, If I find in Sodom 50 who are righteous, then I will forgive the whole place for their sake. Abraham answered, Hear now, I, who am but dust and ashes, have taken upon myself to speak to Yahweh. What if there were 5 less than 50 righteous? He said, I won't destroy it, for if I find 45 there. He spoke to him yet again, What if there were 40 are found there? He said, For the sake of 40 I won't do it. He said, I hope Yahweh won't be angry if I speak. What if 30 are found there? He said, I won't do it if I find 30 there. He said, Hear now, I have taken it upon myself to speak to Yahweh. What if 20 are found there? He said, For the sake of 20 I won't destroy it. He said, I hope Yahweh won't be angry if I speak just once more. What if 10 are found there? He said, For the sake of 10 I won't destroy it. Yahweh went on his way as soon as he has finished speaking to Abraham, and Abraham returned to his place. The 2 angels came to Sodom that evening. When Lot was sitting at the gate of Sodom, Lot saw them, got up to greet them, and prostrated himself on the ground. He said, Hear now, my lords, please come over and take your servants over to your servant's house. Spend the night, wash your feet, get up early, and go on your way. No, they answered. We'll stay in the square. But he kept pressing them. So they went home with him, and he made them a meal, baking matzah, unleavened bread, with their supper, which they ate. But before they could go to bed, the men of the city surrounded the house, young and old, everyone from every neighborhood of Sodom. They called Lot and said to him, Where are the men who came to stay with you tonight? Bring them out to us. We want to have sex with them. Lot went out to them and stood in the doorway, closing the door behind him, and said, Please, brothers, don't do such a wicked thing. Look here, I have 2 daughters who are virgins. Please, let me bring them out to you. You can do with them what seems good to you, but don't do anything to these men, since they are guests in my house. Stand back, they replied. This guy came to live here, and now has decided to play judge? For that, we will deal worse with you than with them. And they crowded in on Lot in order to get close enough to break down the door. But the men inside reached out their hands, brought Lot into the house to them, and shut the door. Then they struck the men at the door of the house with blindness, both small and great, so that they couldn't find the doorway. The men said to Lot, Do you have any people here besides yourselves Whomever you have in the city, son-in-laws, your sons, your daughters, bring them out of this place because we're going to destroy it. Yahweh has become aware of the great outcry against them, and Yahweh has sent us to destroy it. Lot went out and spoke with his son-in-laws who had married his daughters and said, "Get up and leave this place because Yahweh is going to destroy the city." But his sons-in-laws didn't take him seriously. When morning came, the angels told Lot to hurry. "Get up," they said, "and take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here. Otherwise, you will be swept away in the punishment of the city." But he dallied. So the men took hold of his hand, his wife's hands, and the hands of his daughters. Yahweh was being merciful to him, and led them, leaving them outside the city. When they had brought them out, he said, "Flee for your life. Don't look behind you. Don't stop anywhere in the plain, but escape to the hills. Otherwise, you will be swept away." Lot said to them, "Please, no, my lord. Here, your servant has already found favor in your sight, and you will show me even greater mercy by saving my life. But I can't escape to the hills because I'm afraid the disaster will overtake me and I will die. Look, there's a town nearby. To flee to. It's a small one. Please, let me escape there. Isn't just a small one?" And they will say, "In that way I will stay alive." He replied, "All right, I agree with what you have asked. I won't overthrow the city which you have spoken. Hurry and escape to that place because I can't do anything until you arrive there." For this reason, the city was named Zoar, small. By the time Lot had come to Zoar, the sun had risen over the land. Then Yahweh caused sulfur and fire to rain down upon Sodom and Gomorrah from Yahweh out of the sky. He overthrew those cities, the entire plain, all the inhabitants of the cities, and everything growing in the ground. But his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a column of salt. Abraham got up early in the morning, went to the place where he had stood before Yahweh, and looked out toward Sodom and Gomorrah, scanning the entire plain. There before him smoke was rising from the land like smoke from a furnace. But when God destroyed the cities of the plain, he remembered Abraham and sent Lot out, away from destruction, when he overthrew the cities in which Lot lived. Lot went up from Zoar and lived in the hills with his 2 daughters, because he was afraid to stay in Zoar. He and his 2 daughters lived in a cave. The firstborn said to the younger, "Our father is old, and there isn't a man on earth to come into us in a manner customary in the world. Come, let's have our father drink wine, and we'll sleep with him, and that way we'll enable our father to have descendants." So they plied their father with wine that night, and the older out went and slept with her father. He didn't know when she lay down or when she got up. The following day, the older said to the younger, "Here, I slept last night with my father. Let's make him drink wine again tonight, and you go in and sleep with him. In that way we'll enable our father to have descendants." They plied their father with wine that night also, and the younger one got up and slept with him. And he didn't know when she lay down or when she got up. Thus, both daughters of Lot became pregnant by their father. The older one gave birth to a son called Moab. He is the ancestor of Moab to this day. The younger also gave birth to a son, and she called him Ben-Ami. He is the ancestor of the people of Ammon to this day. Abraham traveled from there toward the Negev and lived between Kadesh and Shur. While living as an alien in Gerar, Abraham was saying to Sarah his wife, "She is my sister." So Abimelech, king of Gerar, sent and took Sarah. But God came to Abimelech in a dream one night and said to him, "You are about to die because of the woman you have taken, since she is someone's wife." Now Abimelech had not come near her, so he said, "Lord, will you kill even an upright nation? Didn't he himself say to me, 'She is my sister'? And even she herself said, 'He is my brother'? In doing this, my heart has become pure, and by my hands innocent." God said to him in the dream, "Yes, I know that you are doing this. Your heart has been pure, and I too have kept you from sinning against me. This is why I didn't let you touch her. Therefore return this man's wife to him now. He is a prophet, and he will pray for you so that you will live. But if you don't return her, know that you will certainly die, you and all who belong to you." Abimelech got up early in the morning, called all his servants, and told them these things, and the men became very afraid. Then Abimelech called Abraham and said to him, "What have you done to us? How have I sinned against you to cause you to bring on me and my kingdom a great sin? You have done these things to me that are just not done." Abimelech went on asking Abraham, "Whatever could have caused you to do such a thing?" Abraham replied, "It was because I thought there could possibly be any fear of God in this place. So they would kill me in order to get my wife. But she actually is also my sister, the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother. So she became my wife. When God had me leave my father's house, I told her, 'Do me this favor wherever you go say about me, he is my brother.' Abimelech took sheep, cattle, and male and female slaves and gave them to Abraham, and he returned him Sarah his wife. Then Abimelech said, 'Look, my country lies before you. Live where you like.' To Sarah he said, 'Here, I have given your brother 1,000 pieces of silver, that I will allay the suspicions of everyone who is with you, before everyone you are cleared.' Abraham prayed to God, and God healed Abimelech and his wife and slave girls so that they could have children. For Yahweh had made every woman in Abimelech's household infertile on account of Sarah, Abram's wife." End with the Aaronic blessing. Yahweh will kneel before you presenting gifts, and he will guard you with a hedge of protection. Yahweh will illuminate the wholeness of his being toward you, bringing order. And he will provide you with love, sustenance, and friendship. Yahweh will lift up the wholeness of his being and look upon you and will set in place all you need to be whole and complete. Amen. Shabbat Shalom.